What's up, y'all? How's it going, everybody? Nate, I'll see you in a couple weeks at that conference, I think. Jordan, how's it going? I don't know if Jordan's talked about. Are you going to that conference? It's hard to keep up with how many people are going where. It's good. It means there's a lot of awesome people. Yes, Nate will be there. Nate, are you speaking again? And are you wearing a suit to present and bringing in the family? Nice. JC, what's up? Christian, JC on YouTube, what's up? What's up? Jordan won't be there. Well, I won't rag on you too hard for not being there. Jordan, are you based in Austin? That might have been an easy one for you. I know we talked about it before, but in Austin. Okay, cool. So obviously that makes sense. The only downside of that conference, Wisconsin, is kind of hard to get to. We're gonna drive. But we're gonna drive to Milwaukee and see like a baseball game. I think my cousin or my nephew is really into baseball right now, so we're gonna go watch a baseball game and then drive the 2 hours from there. So, Christian, you're asking which conference? So it's such an awkward thing. I'm saying that conference because that's actually the name of it, which sounds ridiculous. But yeah, so it's called that conference. Michael on YouTube, what's going on? Nate said I would be down to speak, but I think at this point I need my company to sponsor, maybe serve as a backup or something. Oh, because you made a decision to go, so it wasn't. I just made a decision to go. Gotcha. Okay, very cool. That's awesome. Hey, friend from ATX being Austin, Divine King, what's going on? If you're in Austin, you should keep an eye out for that conference, Austin. Mike on Twitch, we just chatted. So Mike, I think you said yes. Are you down to do a live stream sometime to talk about Vercel AI stuff? Because I want to do this hackathon. So two things I'll send a link to people. One is from Wix. What is rats? Okay, let me try to get this link. Wix. I guess I can take that one and then so this is through merge web dev. This one. Okay. So yeah, Michael, I was gonna put that one in there too. So okay, all right, Mike, we'll figure out how to do an AI one. So two things I want to show. One is the Zeta Hackathon, but first is the hackathon with Wix Studio from the Merge community. So it's $20,000 in prizes, and I think Wix is trying to make a big play to help people understand that you can actually write code in Wix Studio. So you can write JavaScript. They have APIs that you can interact with. You can do you can run backend code. You can build full stack applications, which is pretty neat. So they're having a hackathon. First prize is $10,000. Then it goes down from there for a total of $20,000, and that's pretty cool. And then there's also the Zeta Hackathon, which I want to participate in if I can get a link to this. So I want to do a 2-day thing where I build something and participate in this. So this is Zeta Hackathon combining with, and this is pretty cool, with Prisma, Clerk, and Ingest. Clerk is authentication, Prisma is an ORM, which I'm already using for Deals for Devs as an example. And then Ingest is really interesting. They do background jobs and queues and stuff. Let's see. So ship reliable code, no infrastructure, develop durable functions and workflows and code without creating queues, workers, and managing complex state. I'm really curious to try this out. I'm going to share. Let me go ahead and share the screen so y'all can see it. I'm really curious to try Ingest out. It is good for cron job. What's up, JB? Early stream today. Yeah, I wanted to get some stuff done, and I keep talking myself out of streaming because I've been in and out of traveling and stuff. Anyway, yeah, so streaming today, I still want to get back to doing it more regularly. But I'm excited to try this out because I think it solves some of the needs, some of the struggles that come with serverless is the ability or the struggle to do cron jobs and blah, 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 other things. So cron jobs is one. Longer running tasks, I kind of have to figure that out. That's a thing too. So this is going to be really interesting. And I want to spend 2 days to try to build something and participate in this hackathon. So if anybody has ideas for stuff, also my goal said I'm not good enough to develop an app in 2 weeks. I bet you could build something. I think that's part of the challenge is getting something out, even if it's not finished, exactly like JB said. So I would encourage you to participate and try. Also, there's a chance if I find a good idea, like I could just bring that. You can join my team if you want to participate that way. So we'll see. I got to figure out what I'm going to build and then try to just take 2 days and just crank something out and do a bunch of live streams with it. So Graham the Dev finally made it to a stream. I always spot them after they happen. That's fair, man. Glad you made it. Graham, we are scheduled for a live stream. Oh gosh, when is this? I like scheduled it. Oh, it's Thursday, right? Graham, that's on your calendar for Thursday. How did the invitation for this came from my wife's account? How did that work? Maybe it's because I sent it from like my family account. That's funny. Or maybe I put it in there. Did I even invite you to it? Yes. Okay. That's weird. It came from my family account. That's weird. Leon, what's up? You'll live stream coding sessions over those 2 days you're building. That's the plan. So what I think, I want to try to just go really hard for 2 days because I don't have 2 weeks to really focus on it, I don't think. So I figured if I could just do 2 days pretty hard and then live stream it and have people like helping, answering questions, that sort of stuff, I think would be good. So that's my plan. I just got to figure out something to build. And I think the trick is finding, you thought that was my weekend name, was my wife's name? That's funny. It could be. Yeah, my alternate ego. I think the trick is going to be finding something that I use Prisma and Clerk is easy. That's everything. Finding something that makes sense to use ingest and learning how to use ingest. I think that's going to be, finding the idea is going to be the thing that really kind of makes this click. So if I could have a decent idea of what I want to build and then just go into it and go quick, I think is what I need to do. So durable workflows, background jobs, this is all stuff. Yeah, I got to dive into that. I got to watch some content on ingest to really learn more. Also, Sylvia Vargos works there. So I may have to reach out to her to see if she'll do maybe like an intro stream or something. So so Graham's locked in for Thursday. This will be, I forgot to ask Todd Libby if he was going to join for that. I meant to do that originally and I forgot. Graham, are you cool if I ask Todd if he's able to join? So this is going to be an accessibility audit for deals for devs. So that's actually the code that I'm going to work on in a minute. I'm doing an accessibility audit Thursday with Graham. Graham the dev at, what time do we have in here? It's 10 a.m. my time at 10 a.m. CST if you're free to join. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So this will be like a deeper dive accessibility audit. Somebody, Emma, what is Emma's last name? Emma Dawson? Is that right? Emma, what is your last name? Emma learns code. Emma Dawson Dev. She already did a couple of PRs for some accessibility stuff, which I was super appreciative about. So yeah, Emma Dawson. Let me invite her as well. Doing a live stream accessibility audit Thursday with Graham. I don't know why I'm annotating or like verbally, what's it called? If I'm like saying what I'm writing, I don't know. But I'm literally reading out verbatim what my message is. On Thursday at 10 a.m. CST, if you're open to join. All right, cool. So that should come together. That'll be fun. So she's already done a few dictating. Yes, thank you. I don't know why. Narrating was also another thing that I was thinking about. That'll be good though. She's already done a few PRs for some basic stuff. So really curious to get into some other things to check. So, all right. I want to get into, and I've gone back and forth on the best way to handle validation for this a million times already. So this is a multi-step form to submit a deal on dealsfordevs.com. and just tell James the site is broken in all accessibility standards. Probably so. So it's a multi-page form. And what I originally was thinking was to do validation on the server. So as we like have these inputs, we send those off to the server and validate them. Then respond, like show those messages. The problem was if you get like validation messages, so there's use action for use form action. Is that what it was at Next.js? Or use form state? What was it? Use form state. Use form status, use form state, I think is what it was. Oh, this is on the React side, which, yeah, I guess this is what it was. So what this allows you to do is from your server action, return back state, which can include errors. And if we go back and just do validation, I think they have server-side validation error handling. So you can use your use form state. You can have an initial state with no like error messages. And then you can submit this to your action, which runs on the server, does validation, then responds back. The problem is if you then get back the errors from the server, I have no way of, I have no way of making those go away as I start to type, if that makes sense. So as I correct, and if I just get errors from the server, and then on the front end, I show those errors like for the individual boxes in here, and then I start to type, I'm not getting real-time errors going away. And that really sucks because I want you to see what the errors are, but then also be able to fix them. Leon, I apologize to join late. Is the hackathon in Next.js or vanilla React? So I'm not working on the hackathon right now. The hackathon is not specific to Next.js or React. It is specifically including Zeta, Prisma, and Ingest. So it could be any framework you want. Yeah, so, but I will probably use Next.js for that. But it's not required. Leon, I'm also doing Next.js stuff right now. So if you have questions as I'm going through this stuff now, let me know as well. So again, I have this problem of, I thought about submitting this stuff to the server every time and doing validation there and then showing those error messages, but I didn't have a way for those to like on the client go away as I updated stuff, which I felt like it was a poor experience. So then I started to move to like, okay, well then I just need to track errors in the front end. And it's because, I don't know. I just feel like there's not a great way to do this. So one of the challenges I have is I have this big piece of context for adding a deal, and it has all the different properties that I'll need across these different form inputs. So if I kind of type in some stuff here and then go, so all these different form inputs, it tracks. Well, that just broke. Okay, so I'm in the middle of stuff, but all these different form inputs, if I look at details, etc., contact info, and go to review, all these different inputs I have in one object. And I'm starting to think I need to separate these out into like individual context for the different pages on the form. I also was then wondering, I don't even know if I can't decide how much to separate out the logic for each individual page. Because in some ways, I don't know if I need a shared context. Because if I have this shared context across multiple different pages, but I'm only referencing these specific variables in this page, I don't even need to like share that across all the pages. So I'm starting to rethink how this works. So one of the things I do have is schemas defined for the different pages that I have. So I have product info schema, coupon detail schema, contact detail schema, and then I have a merge of all of that, which is for the new deal schema. So as I submit it, this is the schema that it should match with define and Zod. Then I also have, and this is kind of tricky, a new deal initial value schema. So as we load the local storage, so in local storage, we keep track of inputs. If we go to application, and we do that so that on page refresh, this stuff is still here. So we save this stuff in local storage, so if you refresh the page, it still stays. This is here. So Michael is asking, these are using form actions. I was originally going to use form actions for each one of these, but I've since kind of backed out of that because on this page in particular, I'm just trying to validate this page and then go to the next page. I'm not trying to validate the whole submission and actually save stuff to a database. So I'm only doing client-side validation, I think, so far on these pages until I get to review and then actually submit, which will save to the database, and then it does server-side validation. Okay, Leon, I am, what's up? Morning, good to see you back on Twitch. Yes, I enjoyed my trip. Very tiring, a lot going on, but we had a blast. It was awesome. I'm out of water. That sucks. Bob, what's up, man? Sent it to the server per field. Okay, so two things. So Leon is saying use reducer, less intense than context, more complex than use state, put certain properties in use reducer. There's a chance. I still have some things to kind of figure out in my head, but that is an option. Graham is saying not the most efficient way to do it, but if you want to keep the logic on the server side, you could split validation by each input and send it to the server per field. Then on final submit, you can run on all fields. So yes, I'm thinking I don't need to make all those requests to the server though. Because Graham, what I want to happen, and I actually broke something in this, so I can't actually show this like real time. What I want to happen is like as I on blur, so as I tab away from here, I want to check to see. So yes, you could do it on blur. I just feel like that's making a lot of requests to the server that are unnecessary because we're already on the client. So I feel like we should just do that part on the client, and then the final submit, do that on the server that actually does the full validation on the server to make sure people aren't hacking it in a way that they shouldn't. Jordan's going for a sip of water. Oh, going for a sip of water and then nothing in the bottles. Yeah, and then I had a LaCroix that is basically gone now. I don't know if I have another one in here. I'll have one more. Saved. I have one more. Oh, it is. The answer is client side, but I was trying to keep it all in one place for you. That as well. Yeah, fair enough. And that's the thing is like validation, it just is complicated. Like anybody that says it's not complicated is wrong. So what I had gotten to and actually had working was basically on blur of any of these inputs, I was validating the entire input, which was all of the different properties. Leon saying, are we opposed to using some form package Zod and React hook form? Not opposed to it. And at this point, that may be one of the better options. So I'm using Zod now for validation, but I'm not using React hook form. So the thing that I was doing that was working is I was tracking errors for all of the different inputs, even if they weren't shown on here, but then only displaying the error message on here if the thing had been blurred. And so what I got to, and I don't even know what I broke now, unfortunately. I may be able to just, can I go back to where this was? And then I'll show you what I have. Let's get rid of that. I think this is working. Let's try this. Zod only works on client from what I understood. So Zod will work on the server. Zod works on both. So that's one of the things we definitely want to take advantage of is we can do validation using Zod in the client and the server and use these schemas somewhere. So we can use these schemas on the front end and the back end, and that's a good thing. Now let's see if this does like I thought. Okay, cool. So let's just start from scratch. This works. And so what I do is I could tab away on damn, that should have triggered. Well, do I have to type first? That's interesting. Does on blur trigger if you don't change anything before tabbing away? I would think so. Does it not? On blur HTML. I would think so, but something's not. So occurs when an element loses focus. Form validation. Yeah. Right. Front-end nerdery. Right. I would think so too. But for some reason, and I'll show you the code in a second, Leon's saying it doesn't. So if I tab away, for some reason, it's not triggering that logic. So I have to look at that. Okay. Bob followed a separate account. Going for a sip, and it says, oh, a spit cup. Oh, gross. On mouse leave. What's the difference between on mouse leave and sunflower seeds? Nice. On mouse leave versus on blur. Is not. Where can I search in here? On mouse leave. How good is their search? This one. I do have a gram. The dev rel account depends on where you mean. So on mouse leave on the more. Yeah, this is just the pointer leaves an element. Right. So this is Michael. This would not handle like changing the input type thing. Yeah, it's just the like hover versus leave. You can't use that as someone. What if someone's using a key? Yeah, right. On blur takes tabbing into configuration. It does, but for some reason it's not triggering on. Interesting. Yeah. Another Michael in the chat. What's up, Michael on YouTube? Okay, so let me show you what I have really quickly. Let me get a little more. So each one of these inputs has an on change handler, on and an on blur handler. And so what I want to keep track of is for good question. I'll come back to Todd. That I should update based on feedback. In on blur, what I want to keep track of for this form is I want to keep track of which one of these elements has been blurred. So what I do is on blur, I then call set blurs, and it's just a map. And so what I do is I take that thing and then I update the key that matches the name of this element with the value of true. That should then mark this thing as blurred. And then what I have is I pass in an error message to this component if this thing has been blurred, which I don't know. Do I need to make sure that's true? Like, and not just falsy? Truthy? I would think that's okay. But I only then, so if that thing has been blurred, then I either pass the error for that item or undefined, which actually, but it won't have done that validation. Oh, that's why, because there's no actual error. That's why. Okay. Todd, type something in the box to test the trigger. Yeah, so the trigger is working. The thing is that I'm not actually validating until I change the input. So handle input change is where I take the elements, I use Zod to parse it, and then I look at that, and then I flatten that into an error map that I can use to display errors inside of the UI. So there's one particular instance where if I take a fresh page, I tab in, I tab away. It hasn't done any validation on that yet because validation is only on change, which I could combine this to do validation on blur as well. I don't know. Any thoughts on validation on blur versus... I'm sorry. Now, the trade-off is if I did validation on blur, what would happen is if I come back here, I wouldn't, if I then enter in a URL, that error message would stay until I actually blur. So this is a slightly better UX because it gives the immediate feedback of this thing is okay versus what would happen otherwise is it would do this, which would, if I actually had valid, and I would tab away and then it would go away. So there's a little bit of trade-off there. Leon is saying, are you using .min in Zod? Like in the schemas? Schema, where is that? Why am I not seeing schemas? I'm not, well, I have it right here, and I'll be quite honest, I forget why I did it at one point, and I'm honestly not sure why I did it. On change means you need to throttle it so screen readers don't get on change is better but much harder to get right. Means you need to throttle it so screen readers. What's the Graham? What does that mean by screen readers getting bombarded? Help me understand that. And Bob is saying you want immediate feedback. That's my thought. Do men of 10 for, well, I actually, so I can't remember why I did this. I think I actually want to get rid of men. Does string not come with? Oh, that's lame. So how do you add the validation? You have to add in that. Okay. I think I don't need the men. I think I was doing something else, something about parsing the raw JSON thing. So I don't think I need that. So let me update this and get rid of those references. And then this is not meant to be optional. Sorry, just updating this. Okay, those I think are what I want. So there's a difference between, I have two different validation things. I need to actually validate the input from the user as they're typing or changing or whatever. Then there's also validation of the raw JSON object that comes from local storage when I refresh the page. Because if I refresh the page and this thing is broken, so see here it has website URL. If I refresh this, it's there. But if I were to somehow change this string to where it's not valid JSON, for example, and then refresh, it's going to reset it to default data. So there's two different validations. So Graham is saying .min1 is required and Zod, don't know, just guess. I don't think so, because you have .optional, and if you don't do .optional, I think it means required by default. So, so Graham, Todd, throw it in here. Also, wait, Todd, you can save that for Thursday too. So not dismissing it, but that may be a good thing to talk about on Thursday as well, if you're okay with that. Graham is also saying, so if every key press updates the error state, it can announce it on every key press if you don't throttle the change from valid to invalid. Does it, well, if the error doesn't change, like the only time you'd actually see a change in the error being there or not is if it goes from valid to invalid or vice versa. So I would think that doesn't get overwhelming and would probably be intentionally good. But how does that get announced? That's one thing I don't know. Does it just get announced because it's a new HTML element that pops up or out? That's probably not true. There's probably something I don't understand here. Yeah, Bob, this does seem complicated, right? Todd, perfect. Yes, let's talk about that on Thursday. Okay. So inside of product info, one thing I don't like that I'm doing is I'm creating this object manually every time to validate that stuff. And I'm doing this because I'm not tracking these individual properties in state. So I'm not using use state for each one of these individual properties. I have the context that keeps track of the entire new deal data, which has this shape here. That's what it looks like. So every time I change something, I call update new deals data, and I pass in the name of the input that I'm updating and then its value. And then in here, I'm grabbing the specific properties that I want to validate against the product info schema. And then I convert that into a format that I want, which is just a key value pair of name of DOM element to error. And then that's how I use that to then show down here. So my thought is this function will be replicated basically in every one of these form inputs. And the only thing that changes is the data that we're adding in here. Yeah. Graham, this may also be a great topic for Thursday. And then that way we won't lose any nuance. But you're saying, so area invalid or invalid attributes get announced on change. We may not even have them yet, which we do not. That's a great call out. Learning's odd from you right now and how it applies to this issue. Cool. All right, we'll all learn some of that together. And Thursday, we will combine that with area invalid. So I am not doing anything with invalid right now. This input element takes an optional error. And so if we have that error, we just display that inside of here. We're not adding any sort of invalid properties on this. So that's an opportunity. Lou is in the middle of robbing a bank and this pops up. I mean, first get your money and then make sure you understand what we're doing here and contribute back. So, all right. So I think I have, so I'm not doing anything on the server on these 3 form inputs, which I think is good. And then what I want to do is should I then disable, we can look at that associated error message with input error described by perfect. This is all, that's fantastic. I can't wait for that. Okay, now not to get too far into, oh, this is interesting. So not to get too far into accessibility, because again, we can talk about this more on Thursday. But I do want, is the appropriate way to handle buttons to disable them if the form inputs aren't right? Please do not disable buttons. So what happens then, Todd, if you don't disable them? Do you let it click submit? Because I feel, and this maybe is the counter argument or whatever, the disabled button to me is a visual indicator that I don't have the required things to be able to submit. So what's the trade-off with disabling buttons? One other thing that I can do that'll actually fix the issue that we had before. So one issue that I mentioned before is if we refresh the page, this is a required input, but if I tab in and then tab away, it doesn't show it until I've actually typed in something. Shit, that didn't work either. What did I break? Did I just break that? That just worked. Show me the console. Extra attributes from the server. What attributes? I don't have any. Shoot. I have cognitive issues. Let me get you a link. Cool. Good deal. Use highlighting on the fields with the little... What's the bang character, Bob? Access. And I won't spend too much time on this because we can talk about it more on Thursday. Accesslab.com. Oh, what did I mistype? Disabled buttons suck. Partly because of their poor contrast. Okay. I've got the eyesight of an eagle. That's fair. So obviously that would be a concern, is contrast. They fool users into clicking. Click kidding. Wow. Hard to see. Fair. Don't give any feedback as to why they're disabled. Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Okay, so there's a couple things we can do with that if we leave that as enabled. Bob says disable the button with a tooltip or one of the messages from the field from the browser. I let the button click interrupt the submit and add a field message pop up to say fill in this field. Yeah, I think we can combine that. Although first I have to figure out what the hell just broke. Extra attributes from the server style. What did I didn't really change anything, did I? Why is this all of a sudden different? That's no good. And that seems like it's messing up. Why is it just for product name? Oh, jeez. Submit, please enter URL. So that actually, like, that's catching. Oh, it's not catching this. Why is it not catching that error? That's interesting. Did I change this? On blurs, product name, yes. On change, handle input change. We broke it. Let's go. Not good. Not good. So it should take. So that's triggering this. How rats. Success, false, error, issue. It's just looking at. How did that change? Why is it just looking at issues, invalid URL? Did I change something in the schema? Product name. I wonder if this is not the best way to do this. Let's see. Zod string custom message. Message. If your field has required, you can change non-empty, separate. You should use min1. Oh, interesting. So what's the non-empty means empty string doesn't work. So min1 just make sure it's not an empty string, which may actually be an issue because it could be required, but the default that I have inside of here is an empty string. That's actually why I had the min1. Yes, Vince is just saying required error. Oh, interesting. Maybe that's all right. Here, let's go back to that because I'm just curious if that is true. Let's do that really quick. So message required error. Maybe that would be. Oh, all right, refresh. Still not. Okay. I'm going to go back to the min1 to make sure that an empty string is not. Basically, anything that's not optional should have a min1. But I also am worried about this error because I don't know why that's happening. So if I come in, there we go. So that's working. Weird. How do I make... Why is that showing? Go away. Why is that there? No, go away. Does anybody know why that's showing? An arc? What the hell? Okay. I still have to figure this out. This is an annoying one. Why in the world is this showing? Did I hit some sort of... shortcut that that's going to be super annoying if that shows the whole time. Why is it all? Okay, weird. Okay, so that works. Then here, tab away, then this. Okay. So I think that works fairly well. This logic will be replicated in each form, like basically this whole same thing. And then on I wonder. So we'll optimize this in a minute. But let's say we need to put this in its own function. I had an issue with that earlier that I'll come back to. But we'll do the same thing here and say, in this case, navigate to next page, which may give me, no, okay, that's fine. All right, so what this means now, what the fuck? Return statement's not allowed here? Where is return statement? Handle form, I had too many, okay. So it's refresh. Maybe. All right, here's the input. What should happen now is if I click continue, that did not do that. I guess we need to prevent default first, which I miss. I wish there was a way that made more sense to take advantage of just regular form submissions and then get real-time feedback, which I guess I could. It just mixes server validation messages and front end where I just need the front end anyway. I don't know. I really wish I could use more of just form actions for this, but I really don't feel like I can for this page in particular. So let's refresh this. What should happen is if I click submit, what should happen now? I know. Okay, so what should happen now? I thought was it should show all the error messages, but we haven't marked all of them as blurred. So in this case, we need to do that manually, which means we need to take every property. This feels like a lot of too much manual stuff. Where did blue come from? Category, yes. URL, yes. Description, yes. Yes. Okay. So what I want to see is this actually triggers. It did. Okay. So that works. So what happens is when we click continue, that then hits the validation. And then what should happen now is if I then do this correctly, that needs to be updated. If I do this directly now and click continue, I should see a message. Well, maybe not. Oh, I wanted to log this. Okay. So if it's right, I have to figure out why that's not going away. And I click continue. I should see navigating to the next page. Okay. So that's good. Michael's saying, is it possible to use form actions for file uploads? So the problem with file uploads is the better way to do a file upload is not to just send the entire file to the server. It's better to do what we're doing here, which is it basically makes a request to this endpoint, what this endpoint does is it creates a blank image record in the Zeta database, and that returns to us an upload URL to the front end. That upload URL we then use from the client to send that file directly to their server. So that way we're not having to process the file on our server. We're not having to worry about bandwidth on our server. We're not having to worry about function size or like input size on a serverless function in Next.js. We're just sending a request to our backend to generate the upload URL, sending that back to the front end, and then the front end will then actually send that off to the server where it's going to be stored. So for part of that process, yes, you could use form actions. We are not using it for that part right now because the image part is mixed in with this, but that doesn't mean we couldn't do part of that, I believe. So I think I also need to move all the image stuff into its own component because this is getting out of control. Hopefully it helps. Okay, so what you can see here is I obviously have a lot of code that is being reused. So let's do set all blurred. And let's do that. Set all blurred. So that'll work. And then, nice, I do something similar to Superbase. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's the way to do it, really. And then let's say const validate form input. And then what we need to know, though, we can copy all this in. I'll have a problem that I'll show you here in a second. Is we can keep all of this stuff. We can also then we could have this return a Boolean. Let's say return false. Return true. And then inside of here, we can check const valid equals validate form input and say if valid do that log. My dog is whining at me. I don't know what she wants. She might need to go outside, which is no fun. Lily, come here. Can you lay down somewhere and not whine at me? That'd be nice. Okay. So I think I'm going to have a problem. And I think this is what I saw before. So what we've done is we created a separate validate form input function, which means we should be able to move all of this and call that function. But I think I'm going to have a problem, which is the timing of updating the details and then validate form input getting the latest thing. This form validation make the UX nice. No pee on the floor. Yeah, no pee on the floor, please. It'd be really nice if we did not do that. Okay, so let's start from scratch. And that now broke. The reason is, and I wonder if can people answer why this breaks? I know, or at least I think I do. So let's look at what happens. Let's say we start here with empty page. Let's go in here. Let's tab away. Let's come back. Let's put in something. Let's tab away now. And then let's put in something. And the error message doesn't go away until I enter in a second character. Shit. Or still no. Okay, that's weirder than I thought. Fuck. Okay, then I'm super confused. Still no. Yes, I know. How long have you been streaming? I've been streaming for several years. Haven't been doing it that consistently recently. And I'm still trying to get back to that level of consistency. Timmy says validation is hard. I agree. So what has changed here? We call validate form input. It grabs all the things. It does the validation. It then updates the errors. And then returns false or true, so I could use that in here. We also still have our input change where we update it first, and then we validate all input. Validate form input. On change. Set all blurred. James, you quite cusses. You know this shit is real. Yeah. Set all blurred. Oh, where is my blur part? Did I miss that? Set. Did I just erase that? Is that what happened? Jesus Christ. Are you using on change instead of on key up? I am doing on change instead of on key up. It should because it's an on change. What would, so key up wouldn't necessarily change the input, right? So on change does make more sense. But I don't know why have things changed now that I've moved the validate to its own function. Is it not grabbing the latest of those pieces of data? Why error state on the first character inputted into the field? I don't know. I'm very confused. By moving that into its own function, somehow I think this must be getting old values. This is very interesting. Okay. But why does that still not go away? So there's one thing that I do know. If you notice, what it perceives as the input is one letter off of what the actual input is. So if I do this and then add a T, that T is not here until the next character there. And I know why that's happening, but I don't know why this is still having these validation messages not working at all. Notice there's similar color pattern that you choose for your applications. Is there a particular reason? No, this is actually its own color pattern. The green is similar to my personal brand. But yeah, this is not anything like more overarching than that, at least right now. Done a ton of user surveys, and users for the most part despise the air blasting in the eyes on the first character input on the field. Oh, so you're saying like don't show the air until they've inputted at least 5 characters or something? Dude, I'm so confused. You can use debounce callback for processing input. Use debounce callback. I assume that's its own package. Keep track of the blurred fields. Why can't you just show the error messages based on fill out the field and validate when the form is filled out in its entirety? Todd, that would be a good conversation to have, because I think there for me is value in, like, if I do something incorrectly and it shows me the message and then I'm typing and I get it correct, I think it should show me real time, hey, you actually got it, so I actually know, versus only doing it if I tab away or only doing it if I submit. So I think there's value there, but I would love to have that conversation. Felix is saying, why are you keeping track of blurred fields? Couldn't you just show the error messages based on CSS selectors? Like invalid, user invalid. How, so the CSS selectors, are you talking about applying my own class of invalid or user invalid? Because I have Ninja Console tool and go to the browser. It's a cool extension. Lily, let me see if my wife can let her out. Those are pseudo selectors. But okay, so Felix, I guess my point to that is if it's a pseudo selector, it can only be applied to itself if you're using HTML validation. We're doing more than just basic HTML validation. We're doing our own custom validation. So what you're saying, I don't think would accommodate or account for that. Does that make sense? I don't know what just broke here. All right, I'm going to let Lily out to go downstairs at least. I'll be back like 2 seconds. I was just outside. I was trying to let it out. Let her outside. No, what? I meant like let her outside. I was going to come let her down. Thank you. Yeah. Zod validation is just for server-side validation? No. So Zod validation is client and server, which is one of the benefits because we can reuse these Zod schemas on the front end and the back end. Validate form input. When you're trying to view an object, you can't see more than a console. Ninja is good for viewing short bits of info. Felix, no worries. Yeah, love the... So is there a way to log the errors instead of showing it to the top? Yes, I can. So let's do this. And doop doop. So product. Yeah, something is off about tracking the state. Why? Okay. So one thing that I know is wrong is this. So we need the update new details function to finish updating those details before we validate the input. Which means I think you have to go through a full re-render of this before it gets these latest details. So every time we're running validation, we're actually running validation on one change behind whatever that property is. Timmy saying, because I think it's not just the input that's not up to date. I think it's the Zod validation. I think it's the fact that this is going to be one change behind. So a way I can test that is to do something like this and say name value, which is basically what I was doing up there. So this is going to be e.target.name, e.target.value. So I go ahead and pass it that property there. Michael, what are you talking about? Oh, missing something in the extension? Why is that still off? What in the world? Wait for the user to finish entering before. But I think there's trade-offs here, and I do want to validate as they're typing. How does that not on? Yeah, console ninja stuff. Is this triggering all of these? It is like, I don't get it. Could you console log the blur? Like blurs. Huh. So blurs is behind too. Well, that's because I need to update it there. Oh, why did I just move my console? So if I go in and out, it's, oh my gosh. I think it's because these things aren't in sync with each other. We're changing one piece of state and not doing a re-render before we do other things that are dependent upon it. Check if the DOM is not updating according to the state. Timmy, this code is on GitHub, but this code that I'm working on, the project is on GitHub. The code that I'm working on right this second is not. Check if the DOM is not updating. Michael, what do you mean? Use state just for the sake of testing. If the DOM, I'm not sure what you mean. And then other Michael Moore, like inside the blur event. The blur event. So the blur event on blur calls set blurs. So why? I'm actually not sure. Why did I move this up here? Set all blurs, set blurs. I actually don't want this. Why did I do that? That I don't know. I shouldn't be setting the blur because the blur is handled. I don't understand why that doesn't go away. I really don't get that. Like all I did was move this into its own function. I'm so confused. Why does that not run more validation? To set the errors, setting errors should trigger. How does... I think there was something I was missing before, which I'm mind blown by, where we should be setting errors not to empty error. Wait, oh my gosh. if we had an error for something, we're only updating the errors object if it wasn't a success. If validation was a success, which in this case it would be, then we need to set errors. We need to take the errors, and then we need to set the name to undefined or something. I'm not sure what the best way to do that would be. Or we need to delete a key. So, oh, can you do it that way? Whoa. Or is that just a string? I don't know. Does that delete the key? Wait, no, never mind. That didn't do it all well. Michael Martel, I'm saying maybe running it in a client side with useState just to check the current functions and when the errors are actually updating. If I can rerun your status change. Yeah, I think I've got at least part of what's going on. Is I wasn't handling the fact that if I fix the last error, it wasn't updating because I'm only updating errors here, and not if I had errors and then got rid of all of them, it wasn't updating. So I think it was basically this, and I need to update this to be string or undefined, and then I should be able to set that to undefined. Okay, let's see if we make any progress here. Tab away, come back. We didn't change anything, that's fine. Tab away, good. Get rid of error. Tab away, error stays. Add input, now it's back to normal. So it was a particular combination of use case where everything else was valid except for this one. And I wasn't handling the case of updating this thing to have no error. And we do that by setting that property to undefined. Now I wonder, can I get rid of... All right, let's get rid of these logs. Access path, name. Validate form input. This feels a little gross. This doesn't feel like the way to do this. Can you do name and? I don't think you can. Conditionally add key value pair to JavaScript object. Well, I guess I could just say if name and value validated name equals value. I could also see if that works, but I don't think it will. A lot of conditions can get you mixed up. Yeah, I think I will. Validated name. So name is a string. Oh, sorry. No, so that's not what I should do. This should be const temp form data equals that. If name and value temp form data, safe parse temp form data. Yes. Type any. Oh, that might work. Yeah, let's try that. Good call. It's just Triz. So name and is it which? Oh, okay. So that, right? And then in here, we'll say if we can say else if name and I guess we just say if name, then we'll set the errors back. So if we came through here and it was a success and we have a name property that we passed in, update those errors. That allows us to reuse this function from the handle form submit. Because otherwise, if we don't accept this new property, key value pair, we're going to be one update behind in this conversion because we haven't re-rendered to grab the latest values, which is gross and tricky. Okay. So let's refresh. Empty, but not blur, which is okay. Tab away. Fuck me. Jesus Christ. Oh my gosh. Temp form data. Just when I feel like I'm starting to do things the right way. Success true. Okay, tab, back, boom. Success true. Why? How? What does the data look like? Is this the same problem of being one? Here, the cussing is nice. Yeah, sorry. If you don't think it's nice, I apologize. We're still passing in the name and the new value. Which actually is interesting. The value. Huh. No, for real, it's me on the inside too. Yeah. Yeah, I tell myself, like, I want to finish this in like an hour or 2 hours. And it's just like just a bunch of shit, which maybe is just my lack of knowledge. I don't know. How are we still getting that outdated value? I do have one idea, but how is this not a problem before? That's what I don't get. I don't get how it wasn't a problem before. A. That makes no sense. So then how, if we're getting that appropriately, and then we call update new details, temp form data, is that not getting updated? Temp form data, product name, temp. Somehow product name doesn't go. Hey, nothing. That works. How does that not get passed? Oh no, because I'm actually an idiot. But how? I feel like it worked for a second, but how? Why would I be so dumb? Does anybody know what? No, I'm looking at the wrong thing. No, I don't know. Never mind. That's not true. Target name, target value, name, value. Does this line just not work? Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Temp form of name equals value. I don't care. Hey, done. It's fine. Well, no, why does it still say product name is... How? Well, maybe because of that one. Name, value. Hey, nothing. Tab. I don't get it. I don't have any idea. Felix, can you show where you call set state? Which set state are you looking for? So we have the update new deal details, which is a function that updates the state inside of the context. It comes from a different place, but it's in the context. I don't know if that's what you're looking for. Empty string, but somehow if name and value. Oh, because value is an empty string. Because it's an empty string, that's falsy. I don't know if we should check that. Okay, let's try again. Oh, fun. A, nothing. We haven't blurred yet. Blur error. Thank God. A, yes. Now it should show. Tab, still show. Okay. Nothing. Haven't blurred yet. Blur, error, back. Still not valid. Nothing. Valid. Tab. Oh, that was interesting. Did that do... Okay. Wait, no. Yeah, okay, that was right? So on blur... Why did on blur not trigger this one? Product description until I get something in and then go back. Show valid. Show valid while empty until you click. Well, yeah, see, this is where there's a million different use cases. I get what you're saying, Michael, but, and you could still tell me you think that. I think there is value in clicking in here and tabbing away and then having it show you like, hey, you tabbed away, but that's not valid. I think. Now, I'm open to discussion on that. But I think if you click in here and then tab away, it should show you if that thing isn't valid. But why is that not doing that? Is it because... Oh, I think I know why. Because setting the thing to blur... Are you storing input values in local storage? Yes, Timmy, I am. I am storing these in local storage. So the reason that didn't just work is because setting blur doesn't then trigger... So actually, Michael, this would work the way you're talking about. So, and I think I'm going to change this with one solution in a second. If I tab away, come back, no error on product description. If I click continue, it will show. If I also were to have typed in here and then and then get rid of it and tab away, now it'll show the error. The reason is if you haven't done anything to calculate errors yet, there are no errors, and we're not calculating errors on blur, which may or may not be okay. So until you actually have typed in here to have some sort of change to keep track of that input, if you just tab away, it's not going to show an error, but it will if you click continue, it will then trigger that. The way around that is inside of something like this. This is debatable whether or not you want this, is to run a validate form input. So validate all of them like this. Validate form. Why do they always show you it's a missing dependency if you specifically want to run it with an empty array? I don't, because you only want it to run once. So what should happen here, it should run the validation, which should recognize that this thing is invalid as empty. Then all we're waiting for is for it to be blurred so that it'll show that error. So tab should now show it. Same thing should happen down here. Tab should show it. There you go. It should still go away. Should still go away. Should come back. Should go away. Come back. Come back. Okay. Compromise. Michael says displaying an input required to the right of the label when tabbing away. Displaying an input required to the right of the label. What? So like an additional message of some sort? Does it? So we do have the star, which is like basic implication of this is required. So are you saying another piece of text that shows up if you tab away, but just not in red? Is that what you're saying? For what it's worth, I feel pretty happy about this. So if I click now, that should navigate to the next page, although we're not yet. You highlight the star in red. Yeah. Yeah, this is where there's a million different things you could do. Wait, actually, that's not good. Wait. Wait, why did that just... Why is this so hard? Or am I just making this impossibly hard? If I just go down... Does that make sense? If I go to submit, everything should have been updated already. So why return true? Oh, we didn't return in here? Well, that doesn't seem like the problem. So we should have completely valid inputs. Click continue. Wow. I think I know. Because this is crazy. Function lacks any return statement. Does it? I have... Oh, this should be else and then if name. And then another one of those. Yeah. The required fields should have the red star at the top of the form. You should denote required fields accessibly by displaying something like required in red text, but with sufficient. Your required field should have the red star. Do you mean red star by default? Like it starts off as a red star? Does it change color, or does it it's just a red star by default? You should denote required fields accessibly by displaying something like required in red text, but with sufficient contrast. After the visible accessible label. So you're saying like in the label, you would have something like that in red? How do you... Again, could be more conversation for Thursday. What do you have now? Just this. Oh, okay. Just the star is red. Oh, in your example, you said required dash. That's the name of that's the label, and then dash is what you're saying. So inside of here, oh, this is interesting. Thursday's a good time for that. Yeah. So I actually have an issue here where I'm just passing a piece of text here, and then I'm passing a property of required. Now, this property of required is used for the HTML validation required and not for adding on like this thing, which would probably be a better example that I will fix later on, which is this would be a true representation of required, but I never use the required HTML tag. Todd, did you answer this on Twitter? If I'm doing validation, should I be using built-in HTML validation, like with their messages? I would think it's better for me to control a consistent response for validation messages, like look and feel and where they are, and not rely on the built-in HTML validation, which then has a different look and feel. Tell me, I think you said yes at a time that like was in the middle of several things. Can you clarify which yes that was? So where did I end up on this? Okay, the reason that is happening is because I'm running validation on the input before that data has been loaded, which there is a way around that. So Todd, you're saying yes, using HTML validation. War Doctor says yes, but how do we justify like why? So if Alfonso, thanks, I appreciate it. If I have validation messages and assuming I do all the things to make those accessible, why would I additionally use built-in validation that then represents a different indicator of valid or not? Okay, so now if I go here, this should say valid or not. I feel like every time I've gotten to a point where I'm like, oh, I fixed this, and then I'll approve it to you, it doesn't work. You can style the error messages the way you want with CSS if that's your concern. Well, I guess my concern is I'm going to do a validation message for this. Assuming I want to have a consistent placement for these validation messages, which could be different things. It could be good example of what I mean. Michael says semantics. What do you mean by semantics? Do you mean using semantic HTML? Because I think the reason we have semantic HTML is to have the answer to accessibility and other things. I think probably primarily accessibility. And if we're addressing those, why would we need the semantics of the built-in validation? Because I guess the difference is like, so if I go to product name and I say required is true, doesn't required prevent form submission if it has no value? Yes, it does. Okay, so let's look at this. Let's do tab. So there's my error message. Then I come to submit, and it says, please fill out this field. That's actually, so this is a good thing. So this may be one thing that easily convinces me, is that automatically took me to the first field. And I think if I have two in here, it will show me both of these. It will take me to the first. So that is a good thing. War Doctor, that's a great point. The thing that I'm struggling with is, what if I'm doing some sort of validation with Zod that I can't do with built-in validation in HTML? Which may not exist. The one specific thing I'm thinking about is website URL, where Zod has a built-in email validation that uses regex underneath the hood. So if I wanted to match that with the validation, built-in HTML validation, I would have to like write the equivalent regex for those to match, which I don't know if I want to do. But I think a fair, at least an easy thing to do at this point is to make, yeah, ooh, that's my thought. Text area. I think a fair trade-off at this point is just to make these simply all required. The other thing I didn't know, do I have that on category select? Yeah. So let's wipe out. No one wants to do that progressive enhancement anymore. HTML is a base, Zod for refinement. Progressive enhancement is a key part of accessibility. The big question is the server-side rendered, client-side rendered, as that changes the answer a bit. War Doctor says I can hit up Homer, see if there's any accessibility concern, but I think area required takes care of that. Takes care of progressive enhancement. All right, let's try this. Let's restart from scratch with no data, which should populate this with starter data, which is nothing. If I click continue, it tells me to fill out the form. Now, in this case, it's not showing me, and I don't know why. Why is this also not showing the errors? Is it server-side rendered, or this is a client component? So all of this stuff, because we're doing these validation messages, this is all in the client. Todd says setting area required true tells a screen reader that an element is required, but has no bearing on the optionality on that element. So what you would be saying is inside of my input component, where that's not what I'm looking for. Inside of, well, I thought it would be this one. Maybe it's this one. So you're saying area required. Can I just set it to the Boolean? Is that okay? So you're saying required is the actual HTML validation. Area required is a label that would communicate to someone auditorily that this thing is required. Okay. So you're saying that would be something that we should keep. So same thing in the select here. And then in text area, it would be the same thing there. First rule of area Fight Club. But I still have one question for my logic. If I have no data here, and then I go and click the submit button, if that should get rid of that. Set all blurred. Validate form inputs. Answer, don't use area unless you really Okay, Todd, so are you saying don't use area required that I just added? That is a rule. I've heard people reference that rule of don't use it unless you know it. So what would be the use case for using area required here or not? That I'm unsure of. Correct. Okay. Todd, explain. Do not use area required as required does the same. Required takes care of area required, or it provides that context? Get rid of this. All right, it's gone. Handle form submits. Set all blurred. Area required shouldn't be a thing longer because it's not needed or exposed in the same way. Okay, cool. That's good to know. Okay, I'm missing one thing. One thing on this is right now, Agents and Scouts, junior developer watching your videos for a while. It's awesome. I forget my camera has moved. It's not in the middle anymore. That's awesome. Thank you. There was an annoyance if you have required in the label, then a screen reader would say it twice. Love to see you code in real life. That's awesome. Thanks for joining us. What junior front-end developer, what kind of stuff are you working with? And what are you learning? Are you doing React, Next.js, anything like that? Todd says, if the element's value is the empty string, then the element is suffering from value missing and the element will match the invalid pseudo class. Okay. Oh, so it'll be a plot. Okay. Agent Scouts doing React. Sweet. Do you have your first job yet or looking for a first job? There's a trick. Span area hidden true required. Y'all are doing too much now. What's the point of the area hidden required? That means it would also be read twice, right? Because it would be read through the screen reader through area hidden. Like area hidden doesn't read the word. I thought area hidden means it doesn't show up visually, but would be read. So my understanding of that, I think, is off. I would have thought area hidden true would mean it doesn't show up visually, but it implies even though it's not visual, it should be read. Thought it tells the skip. I don't think I'm a source on this. You definitely know better than I do. But someone to confirm. Okay, someone confirm. Agents, no work yet. Studying. I will do internship this fall. Nice. Sweet. Michael's looking for second job. Nice. Michael, what type of jobs are you looking for? So if you have input required, a screen reader will say input required. So in your label, if you say name required, it will say input required by area hidden. Oh, it means the opposite of what I thought. So area hidden means it's visible, but it doesn't get read out through area. So it means the exact opposite of what I thought and does do what War Doctor thought. Cool. Okay, so I still have one problem here, and that is on submit, I'm not getting things to be shown. Area hidden means screener does not see it, but does not affect presentation. I think my confusion on that is I've seen area hidden. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought I had seen area hidden combined with classes that visually hide it, which now doesn't make any sense. Anyway. If name, update that. Validated. Set errors. So what happens? Errors. There's also a global HTML attribute hidden, which you're confusing with area hidden. I don't think I'm specifically confusing those because I do know that's a separate thing. I'm just the use case of that from what I thought I had seen. I'm mixing up somewhere. You have visually hidden to do the opposite. Yeah. One for Thursdays. Yeah. Cool. We'll talk about that more. The one thing that I don't understand right now is why when I click handle form submit, why am I not seeing you shouldn't use area hidden on focusable elements, just putting that out there. That seems to make sense. Plus 1,000. Oh, this is annoying. Okay. That's super annoying. So what's happening, because we added back required, HTML required, when we click submit, it seems like it doesn't even run. Or wait, maybe it, let's just start here. It seems like it doesn't even run the rest of our code because the HTML validation takes over first, which I don't like. So do you see my struggle? I feel like this should be combined with my validation. But on submit, my validation doesn't run. None of my code in on submit runs because HTML required validation hits it first. All of my validation works if I do it like inside of here. But none of my validation will run here. So in the browser APIs, a button, a form submit doesn't even run the handler if there's HTML validation on that form. That's tough, right? Like, doesn't that take away a lot from what I'm trying to do? No one's jumping in yet, but I feel like I found a thing that really kills me. And this is one of those instances of where I would fight against built-in validation because now I have this mismatched experience for the user. So HTML validation is base, but if JavaScript is there, you want to do no validate on your form, adding it manually. But Graham, that's one of the things. So if we do that, see, we're just playing this game of like, how do we try to fix stuff that is introduced by the fact that we're using it? And I'm not arguing built-in HTML validation is not good. I'm just saying it makes this more complicated, because what's going to happen now is if it doesn't do that validation, I'm also not going to get the benefit of what I added those required statements for, is it took me back to the input first that was invalid. You get what I'm saying? Like, this is basically the equivalent of me not doing required. And the one thing to me that really stood out with using HTML validation was the fact that it took me to the first element. You have to implement that yourself with focus management. You can't have, I know, that's what I'm saying. That's the shitty part. I mean, shitty is relative. That's the struggle though. It's like, why use the thing if I'm still going to hit a use case where I have to go and implement a thing that it provides me anyway, because I can't have it both ways. So the question to me still stands, is there any point in using built-in HTML validation if I'm going to have to rebuild a thing that it provides me? Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm cool with leaving this as required. That provides some sort of accessibility to the user, right? So by marking this as required, this provides accessibility to the user because it's going to read it out loud to say it's valid or say it's required. No validate means I get to handle everything, but then what I have to do is focus input on top level invalid input, which means I then also have to track the specific order of the inputs that I want to be able to work with to then go back to the first one. So validate at the end of each step. And this is client-side rendering. No, this is SSR. Okay, is there any point? The short answer is this is CSR, so no. And I think that's fair. And I think we have this misconception, to me, that server-side validation is enough. And I don't think from a user experience perspective it is. Because from a user experience perspective, I want to know, as I'm changing input, did I match the requirements of what this needs to be? And with only server-side validation, you can't know that until you do a full submission to the server. Now, for context, when I started going through this yesterday or the day before, and I was trying to start doing validation, I wanted specifically to run all validation through the server. What happened was the server would return errors that I could display, but I couldn't get rid of those error messages on the client if I didn't track validation. I couldn't get rid of the error messages on Blur, for example, because the messages coming from the server were static. They were just there only on submit. So the only way accessibility doesn't necessarily be on Blur. It could be, Michael, I'm not sure what the mix you're mentioning there between Blur and accessibility is. I'm not sure if you could clarify that. How do you say Zirkle? I've never actually said your handle out loud. Zirkle, I guess. What's up, Michael? Wonderful to listen to. Yeah. Graham is saying not validation, rendering. So the page can display without JavaScript, then you need to start with HTML validation. If this page will not display at all, you can go pure library. Is that clear? Did you unplug it and plug it back in? That is a good clarification. So oh my gosh, it drives me crazy. I would love for all of this to be server side validation and rendered. to your point, built-in HTML validation works without JavaScript, which is a benefit. And I love the workflow of taking advantage of just forms, doing what they do, and submitting to a server. And I'm not arguing with you. This is me being frustrated with the situation. I feel like that doing just server-side validation from a user experience perspective is a myth. I don't think that's a good, again, I'm not arguing with you, just to be clear. I'm like frustrated at the situation in my head. I don't think server-side validation, only server-side validation on form input is enough for user experience. Which means I then have to go this full other route, and it's this idea of I can't have it both ways. I have to go this full other route of doing all this shit in the client to provide what I think is the appropriate user experience. Which then means I can't take advantage of form submissions as forms are what they're meant to do, which is what I would love to do, is just have a form, submit the shit to the server. But I can't do that because I don't think that provides the user experience, which means I have to scrap all the form actions and all the things that seem really nice. I have to scrap that at this point because it doesn't do anything for me, because I have to add all this shit in the client to start. Graham, I think, is on the same page with me. Also, again, one last clarification. I'm getting really aggressive and excited. That's not at anyone in particular. That's not arguing with anybody. It's me being frustrated with exactly what you said, which is having to do double work, and that's how it is. But I guess I feel like, are there people who really advocate that server-side rendering and validation for a form is enough? Because I guess that's the thing that I would argue, is that just doesn't feel like enough in a modern user experience world, where I think it's important for me as I type or as I fix an error for that error to go away. Because I feel like it's very poor experience. If I submit to the server, it shows an error, I then type in the correct input, and that error stays there until I submit again. Server-side validation is purely to make sure people are not... Yes. So another thing to clarify, server-side validation does not go away. 100% agree. What I'm saying is, in this particular use case, I can't take advantage of server actions. And I can't take full advantage of just regular form submissions because I need to do that validation on the front end. Now I have to pee so bad, like it hurts. There is another option. Accessibility. So Todd, none of this, I don't think, is disregarding accessibility. Well, dude, I have to pee, so it literally hurts. I don't think any of this disregards accessibility, but the combination of user experience and then accounting for accessibility does get harder. All right, I'll be back. All right. For reference, my bathroom up here. Did the music get louder? My bathroom up here is like literally a 5-second walk. So that whole time, in addition to washing my hands, minus 10 seconds, was peeing. So the music got louder. Is that what happened? I don't know why that would have been. Michael, you're 100% right. That's like literally what it was. Music got louder so it would drown out the ping noise. Fair. I didn't do that on purpose for what it's worth. Thanks for washing your hands. See? Watching my hands or washing? We just timed you. How long was it? Okay. What did I miss in blink twice if you're back teeth? What does that mean? Go pee. We'll argue this out in chat. All right. What did I miss? I was told to show up and help out. Did they break out? All right. You're wrong, Graham. I think client-side validation is for the client. Server-side validation is purely to make sure. Wait, isn't that what? Do you SQL injection? I think that's what Graham said, didn't he? Client-side validation is for the client. Server-side validation purely to make sure they're different purposes. Wait, I'm confused, Michael, what you said. You're wrong, Graham. Oh, are you just quoting him and saying, I think I agree, sorry, I'm catching up. Okay. So y'all are just arguing for fun. I like that too. Keep reading. All you missed is a bunch of smart assery. Yeah. But he was too agreeable. That's hilarious. I was like, wait, you're saying the same shit? Okay. So there is one more option. There is one more option. Are you ready for this? Which is going to annoy the shit out of me, but could be the best option that we have. And that is to do everything server-side rendered first by using form actions. Don't have a form. Graham, not that one. This is a legitimate option. We do everything first by focusing on a regular form submission let me go full screen. Regular form submission to the server using form actions inside of Next.js. We can get back errors from validation on the server, and we can display those in the browser. Now, my issue with that, I love that. My issue, though, is that as we show an error message for something that wasn't completed as an example, like it's required and they didn't enter anything, we submit, goes to the server, it comes back with validation. It then shows that validation message on that input. My personal problem, the biggest pet peeve I have, or the biggest gripe I have right now, is the fact that I can't get that error message to go away until I resubmit that to the server. What we can do, which I'm going to be annoyed as shit about, is we can have that whole workflow and then also have client-side validation. But then what we have to do is somehow merge the initial state coming from the server with the state that we track with the stuff that we're already doing. Are y'all talking about random shit, or are you paying attention? Because this is important. Did anybody follow what I'm saying? We can do all the server-side validation, all the take advantage of the form as is. This is already over-engineered. That's the point. I don't know if I'm overthinking it. I think it has to be what you're referring to as overthought. Well, I give up. Help us help you. So, Homer, you said simple answer is server side. That is the simple answer. I adamantly don't think that provides a good enough user experience. I think that is a semi-hill. Oh, sorry, you're just stating options. But for what it's worth, I think that's a semi-hill I'm willing to die on, where that user experience isn't good enough. But I still have the ability to combine the two. I just don't like, what are people like when we talk about form actions? Mind regroup. Focus on Homer. What are you saying? You don't need to though? Which part? Okay. Also, Jordan, who's on Twitch. I think a lot of conversations happening on YouTube. Jordan, who's on Twitch, was gone for a bit. Why are people against both server client validation? So I'll give you a quick run through, Jordan. I wanted to do all the validation. These are stepped, like different pages. Let me go back and show the screen for reference. It's a multi-page form, multi-step form. So I'm not actually, like when I click continue here, I'm not actually saving this to the database. So I don't need to do server-side validation yet. Server-side validation actually happens when I go to the review and actually submit the stuff. So Jordan, what I wanted to do was have this just work like a regular form and use form actions to take these inputs and submit it to the server using a form action in Next.js, have Zod validation happen and return those errors if there are any to the browser using use action state or whatever that thing is. Use form action, whatever that thing is. I can't remember. My number one problem with that was it would show these error messages, but then the error messages wouldn't go away if I fixed them on the client. They would only go away after I submitted back to the server. From there, I then decided, well, I want to have this like real-time validation messages show up. So I'm basically going to do all this stuff in the client. It annoys me with that I can't take advantage of the built-in HTML forms. It won't work without JavaScript, and I can't take advantage of form actions in Next.js. So then I evolved to, there is a way to combine the server side, like do the server side validation exactly like I said, have the form just submit to the server. Also do client side validation, but then I have to merge the client side validation with the validation messages that are coming back from the server. And that's I actually think in some ways that might be the cleanest, because the client side validation has to live there regardless. But if I did the server first approach and then added on the client side validation, this would all work. Hopefully my audio. Did everybody else lose audio? Oh, I'm an idiot. Just me. Jordan, how much of that did you just miss? Because I've been talking for a while. Just the last 10 seconds. So in some ways, I think this might be the cleanest solution and still works without JavaScript. Oh, Clay, did I take an option, something you were looking at? I don't know if I tagged myself in the issue. I'm sorry if I didn't. As much as I want to do things a certain way, I need to remind myself it is for the people on the other side of the glass. Skill issues. What else did y'all say? Felix said, what about preventing native form validation from happening and then use report validity to show the errors when you decide? I'm not sure what report validity is. You have to tell me what that is. Filling out this form, you need to set your biases aside. If users are filling out, which biases do you mean? You can have server-side validation and have great audio scale. The big question is, will this work without JavaScript at all? I keep asking, as that makes a huge difference. Can I submit this form? So yes, back to that question, Graham. This right now will not work without JavaScript, which is one of the things that we could solve if we also built to use server actions to handle this. Todd, still regardless of which approach, accessibility, especially with you all watching me, is a focus, and especially for Homer, we're doing a live stream on Thursday. I don't know if I told you, where this is just going to be a group of people shouting at me about accessibility. It's 10 o'clock Central Time if you're available. Clay, okay, sorry. I think I took this from you. It's a bigger one, and I'm still figuring out what the best approach is. So I'm going to take this one, and I apologize for not communicating that earlier. Need to check my flight. Maybe. Okay, cool. I'll Homer, if you like have a second to send me your email, I'll send you the invite to the stream too. So it's going to be me, Graham, Todd, and Emma Dawson, and then maybe you. Cool. Clay, I need to update that, and I'll take it. Meow. I don't know if I can repeat it so many more times. Not your fault. It's just nature of it. Just the what's the absolute best practice? Okay, I guess here's the three things that I'm considering. User experience from validation form input validation, user experience, accessibility, which I think regardless of the solution will work, and then works without JavaScript. Those are the three considerations that I'm trying to balance. If the page will load without JavaScript, the way to do it is native HTML validation, return all errors on submit. Then when JavaScript loads, add no validate and use yes. So Graham, what I'm coming around to is all the things that we just did in the client, we can also just add the base fundamentals of server-side stuff to get the benefits of all the things you just said that works without JavaScript. Jordan is saying it feels like the cliche that everything is a trade-off and you have two very clear non-negotiable requirements and one that is more of a preference. I'm curious which one you think I'm defining as non-negotiable requirements and one that is more of a preference. Accessibility, again, with the help of other people, requirement. I think user experience is a requirement. I would then say nice to have is working without JavaScript. Right. For what it's worth. Yes. So Jordan and Todd are on two different platforms, Twitch and YouTube. You both are, and I'm saying the same thing, that accessibility is a requirement, not a preference. We're all saying the same thing. And then Jordan also agreed that accessibility and user experience were my two requirements. And then my nice to have was works without JavaScript. Meow says, isn't client component necessary when using React Hook Form and Zod? Can you do a form with... great question. So I'm actually not using React Hook Form right now. You can use Zod on the server. So we will use the same schemas, Zod schema. We'll use the same Zod schemas on the client and the server. Yes. Yeah, Todd. So I think we're all on the same page. Graham said basically no JavaScript first to give base functionality, add the candy, real-time error messages, robust as you can get that way. And I think that's the answer. So I need to go and eat food before I've got a tax meeting that I have to go handle. So what this is going to look like is we scrap this. I had an action. I actually had done some of this. Here it is. So submit product info action. We take this. Okay, all that's written. So just for reference, this is something that runs on the server. This grabs the form inputs from that form. It then runs validation. It returns errors if they're already. If not, it redirects the user to the next page. So then what we go back to is, I need to look this up because I never remember what's it called? This thing. So use form state. And then initial state is an object that has errors, which is empty object. And this thing matches a type like this. That thing there. Typos, thank you. So then we have initial state as initial state. We have the submit product info action. And then we get our state and we get our form action. And then we have our form action is what we're going to pass. Form action is what we're going to pass here. And this is going to be action. In and out is over. Are you just trying to start shit? Or I guess Michael's in on it too. That actually sounds delicious right now. Graham said Thursday should be really fun, as this is probably the most important aspect of accessibility that people get wrong. Forms. Perfect. We need to make smash burgers with Paula when Paula and I visit for Connect Tech. That sounds delicious. Okay. Meow said, are you trying to make it a client component or only it can send without JavaScript? A bit confused here. It is a client component, but it should also work without JavaScript. So I think I've got enough of this set up right now to look at this. Let's go back to the form. Client-side validation in this case should work. Doop, doop, doop. Away. Boop. I feel like also on change, maybe not. No, that's okay. Okay, so that works. That works. Doop, doop, doop. That works. This goes away. Oh, nope. See website. Why is my caps lock on? See website. Okay. Oh, in and out. So here, I will die on this hill. In and out fries suck. I don't know if there's any arguments there. I don't. In and out fries, not impressive. Actually, I haven't had Wendy's fries in literally years. Homer, thanks for joining, man. Hopefully I'll get you Thursday. Meow, Checkers fries, goated, 100%. Yes. I'm in Tennessee. Checkers fries are amazing. In-N-Out fries suck. Okay, so all of this stuff is working here. Now what's going to happen is, and I don't know, I need to use a use effect for this, I believe, because I just want to see. This feels so gross. Console log state. Okay, I just want to see the state. Checkers and In-N-Out are awesome. I think the burger In-N-Out is awesome. Don't like the fries. Actually, I don't know if I've really had a burger from In-N-Out. Okay, let's look at this. So errors comes back as an empty object to start. Now, this is the server validation state. Then what happens if we try to submit this with a couple errors? We should see now we have errors coming from the server. And I wonder, aren't you getting hot chicken? Hot chicken, yes. It's a Nashville thing specific, but we actually have one of the best here from Nashville. So yes, hot chicken is absolutely my thing. The problem is a lot of other places overdo it in the wrong way, and it's not that good. Atlanta hot chicken. I haven't actually had Atlanta hot chicken, so I need to try that. Are you only using Zod validation? Is an everywhere thing. It's not an everywhere done well thing. Hot chicken started in Nashville and has exploded around the country, but also is often done very, very poorly. Another hill I would die on. Meow is asking, are you only using Zod validation on the back end? I thought form action is usually filled in the Zod validation, including the trigger. So we are using Zod validation on the back end and the front end, both. The back end is so that we can do regular validation without JavaScript. The front end is so that we can provide real-time validation messages. Yeah, you're good. Yeah, great questions. Todd has an awesome chicken place in Phoenix. Didn't say they don't exist. I just say they're done poorly a lot, but I would love to try that place. Todd, I'll see you on Thursday. Appreciate it. Can you please show me where it's checking on the front end? I usually have my validations within the form action. So I am doing validation on change. So on change, we call a function called handle input change. Handle input change grabs the temporary form data, uses Zod to validate it. And this is a little more complicated because I have a context to store stuff for a multi-page form. But in general, what I would be doing is doing validation on change for an input. So I wonder, chicken and waffles is one of the best things in the world, but also is done poorly, and it pisses me off more than almost anything a lot. I almost am scared to get chicken and waffles because if you do it and it's not amazing, I'm so mad. It makes me so frustrated. All right. So what I want to do maybe is set errors to be errors and then override any of those errors with state.errors. Can I do it like this? Do I need to add errors in there? Velvet Taco does a decent chicken waffles. I haven't had that. That's interesting. This final argument passed to the change size, the order. I don't understand that. I'm going to leave it at that for now. Velvet Taco is the worst. I actually liked it. Okay. I don't understand this thing. The final argument passed. This thing doesn't change size. That is an array with one item in it. Really causing unrest in this chat. Yeah, you are. So what happens if I click submit? Huh. That actually worked. That's pretty freaking cool. Except for that, I've got a bug in that, I think. And this should actually redirect. Huh. I need to double check something, but I think I just combined server validation, works without JavaScript. Actually, I guess we can test this. Meow, any reason not using React Hook form? I may do that. I may. Just because I hadn't gotten around to it yet, and I was still kind of figuring out exactly what I wanted to do. How do you turn off JavaScript? Probably don't have in Tennessee anymore, but I recommend Halal Guys. Oh, I lived in New York. Love Halal Guys. We don't have any in Tennessee. No, I don't think so. How do you why am I blanking on this? How do you run the command palette? Oh, Command Shift P. Disable JavaScript. Okay, this is going to be interesting. Oh, that probably won't even load. Well, no, how? That's a thing I'll have to look into. Where does that come from? Hey, Siri, turn off JavaScript. Maybe I broke. Maybe that's not exactly what I wanted to do. I have something else to figure out. And to be clear in my head, I have to have client-side JavaScript to be able to save this off into local storage. But I do have server-side validation triggering for all of this. So before I show this error message, this is doing server-side validation, which combines with the client-side. That's actually pretty cool. All right, there's some like more complicated things in here that I feel like I may need to look into, but I need to go eat before having a tax call at 1 o'clock. But it's been super fun and stressful and annoying. My hair is getting thinner and thinner. It doesn't look great though. All right, I'm gonna run. Thanks so much everybody for like being a part of this. This is a ton of fun, super insightful. We'll have the live stream at 10 o'clock Central Time with the people that I mentioned earlier, with Graham and Todd and Homer and Emma. Well, I don't know if Emma said anything. Hopefully she'll be able to join. For accessibility, I'm sure we'll get to talk more about the impact of that on like how we build forms. But I think this is extremely successful, better than Theo's hair. Oh, what is Theo's hair? I don't even know. I don't know. But yeah, it's thinner. I'm self-conscious about it, but it is what it is. That's why I wear hats a lot, so I don't have to do anything with it. But all right. Yeah, super fun. Let's see. Is there anybody on to raid over to let's see, to Atlanta Lex? I'll send everybody on Twitch over there. Here's a Donald Trump cut. Cool. All right, I'm gonna call it, but thanks again everybody, really appreciate it. See y'all later.